Good evening, friends. Tonight, we travel back to Suzhou during the reign of Emperor Qianlong. Beneath the prosperous surface of the High Qing Era, we will step into the life of a helpless beggar and witness the joys, sorrows, and mutual redemption of those struggling at the very bottom of society. May every act of perseverance and kindness be treated with gentleness. If you are ready to listen to tonight's historical tale, feel free to type Fan Qing Fu Ming in the comments. Now, let the sound of the bell relax your body as you follow me into the tattered world of the Qianlong era. You are curled up in a corner of Suzhou's Changmen Gate. The cold wind whistles through the gaps in your ragged clothes, scraping against your frozen purple neck and seeping into your empty stomach. Hunger is no longer a sharp, piercing pain. Instead, it has become a pervasive numbness spreading through your body. It is like the floodwaters that submerged the fields after the disaster in northern Huai, slowly swallowing your last ounce of strength. 3 months ago, the murky waves swept away your thatched hut and your parents. They also washed away the last shred of dignity you held as a farmer. Now, you are just a displaced person, a beggar whose name is nearly forgotten. He is merely a small memory you kept for yourself during your flight from the famine. You do not understand the rules of Suzhou City, nor do you know anything about beggar gangs or territories. You only see that the people walking along this street of shops are dressed elegantly and look so clean that you are afraid to even approach them. But the numbness in your belly eventually turns into a stabbing cramp. Gritting your teeth, you crawl to the entrance of a silk shop and fall to your knees with a thud, pressing your forehead against the cold bluestone pavement. You cry out in a hoarse voice, "Sir, madam, please have mercy. Give me a bite to eat. I am starving to death." This is the only way you know how to beg, simple and humble, driven by the most primitive instinct for survival. It is what Liu San would later call gentle begging. You expect to be rewarded with a bowl of porridge, but instead, a rough, powerful hand grabs your collar from behind and jerks you upward. The force is so great that you stumble. Looking up, you see a middle-aged man wearing an old cotton coat that is covered in patches but clean. His left hand is curled and deformed, clearly the result of a severe injury. His right hand grips your collar, and his eyes are filled with sharp rebuke and suspicion. Deep wrinkles carved by time and suffering mark his face, and his beard is a withered yellow. Yet his eyes remain sharp, hiding the weariness of a life spent struggling at the bottom of society. "Are you looking for death?" he asks. His voice is not loud, but it carries a heavy authority. "Do you have any idea whose territory this is? How dare you beg here without permission?" You struggle to breathe, and your neck stings with pain, but you stubbornly lift your head, your eyes welling with tears. It is not fear you feel, but a sense of grievance and despair. I am hungry," you sob, the words barely audible. "I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I just wanted something to eat." The grip on your collar loosens, but he gives you a violent shove. You fall onto the blue stone floor, your knees hitting the hard ground painfully as your tears finally spill over. Along this journey, you have seen floods swallow people whole, witnessed fields of unburied corpses, and endured the indifference of strangers. But you have never been treated with such blunt aggression. It was not because you were dirty or poor, but simply because you did not know his rules. Being hungry gives you the right to trespass on someone's turf. He squats down, the anger in his eyes fading into something more complex. "You are a drifter from the outside, aren't you?" Beggars in Suzhou are divided into 2 kinds. First, there are unorganized drifters like you, alone, ignorant of the rules, begging wherever they please. They are the easiest to beat and bully. The second kind consists of local, organized beggars like me. We belong to the district Beggar Gang, We have fixed territories. And as long as we follow the rules, we can beg in peace under the protection of the beggar head. Every day, I must give a portion of what I beg to the beggar head as commission. Much like a tenant farmer pays rent to a landlord, it is usually 30% of what I earn, rising to 50% during festivals. In exchange, the beggar head ensures I can beg safely. By begging here randomly, you have broken the rules. The beggar head will beat me and drive me away because of you. I have a crippled hand and a lame leg. If I lose this street, I will starve to death. You look at his curled left hand and the exhaustion and fear in his eyes, and suddenly, you understand. He is just like you, a person pushed to the brink by life. Only he has a few more rules and a bit more of a foundation to survive on. You remember the refugees on the road trampling each other for a mouthful of food, and you realize his shouting and shoving were never truly about you. They were about survival. At the bottom of society, even begging is a war fought with every ounce of strength. He sighs and pulls you up. His fingertips accidentally brush against your frozen wrist before he quickly pulls them back, leaving behind the rough warmth of a palm that has held a begging bowl for years. "My name is Liu San," he says, his tone much gentler now. "I used to be a weaver, but the workshop closed down, and my hand was ruined. I can't do the work anymore, so I beg. If you are truly that hungry, follow me. I still have half a piece of dry flatbread." You follow behind him, watching his limping gait as his right leg also seems troubled. In this strange city, where you are alone and unsupported, Liu San is the only piece of driftwood you can grab onto. You clutch your tattered sleeves, your fingers cold, but a faint warmth rises in your heart, like a spark in the dead of winter, lighting the desperate path ahead. Liu San leads you to a secluded alleyway. It is shielded from the wind but filled with piles of trash and a lingering stench. He pulls out a piece of hard, cracked flatbread, breaks off the larger half, and hands it to you. His fingers briefly touch your palm before he retracts them hastily. "Eat up, slowly, or you'll choke." Your hands tremble as you take it and stuff it into your mouth. You don't care that the hard crumbs cut your lips. It is the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. When crumbs fall to the ground, you quickly pick them up and eat them, not daring to waste a single bit. Liu San sits beside you watching, taking only a sip of murky cold water from a broken bowl. "What is your name?" he asks suddenly. He, you answer with your mouth full of bread, your voice muffled and indistinct. "I come from northern Huai. There was a massive flood back home. My parents are gone, and I fled the famine all the way to this place." Liu San falls silent, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. After a long pause, he speaks slowly, his voice raspy and dry. "I used to work in a silk workshop here in the south. I was a skilled craftsman, making enough to support myself and even save a little money. But then the owner ran off to escape his debts. While trying to fight for a few scraps of fabric, my hand was slashed and my leg was broken. I could never work as a weaver again, so I was forced to beg." People like us represent the two main types of beggars in the Qing Dynasty. Those like you, who lost their land and family to natural disasters, and those like me, who lost their trade and their livelihood. He lifts his curled left hand, his eyes brimming with resentment and sorrow. "Did you know that, while Emperor Qianlong sits on the throne, the world calls this a golden age of prosperity? But beneath that golden surface, how many miserable souls like us are hidden away? The population is exploding, and big landowners are seizing all the fields. Combine that with constant floods, droughts, and locust plagues, and countless people lose their homes and their lives. They have no choice but to flee to big cities like Suzhou or Beijing to beg. Behind the glitz and glamour, it is all displaced people like us. I used to be bitter, but bitterness is useless. Survival is the only thing that matters. The bread in your mouth suddenly feels impossible to swallow. Memories of your parents, your flooded home, and the grueling journey south surge through you, bringing a wave of grief and helplessness. You thought your own fate was the most pitiful. Yet you realize that in this very city, countless others are also struggling in the mire of suffering, fighting with everything they have for a single bite of food. In that moment, the barrier between you and Liu San vanishes. There is only the shared empathy of two people at the bottom of the world, both abandoned by a prosperous era, hiding a desperate will to live beneath their tattered rags. If you don't want to starve to death or be bullied, follow me, Liu San says, turning to you with a solemn look in his eyes. I will teach you the rules, I will teach you how to beg, and I will teach you how to survive in this city. But remember, the Beggar Gang has rules, and every territory has its boundaries. Most importantly, you must pay your dues to the beggar head, according to the regulations. It is usually 30% of what you get, or 50% during holidays. That is the bottom line. Once you pay your dues, the beggar head will recognize you and protect you. You nod vigorously as tears fall once again, but this time, they are tears of gratitude. Liu San is helping you and giving you a path to stay alive. In this strange, vast city, you are finally no longer alone. You have a companion you can rely on. Early the next morning, Liu San takes you to meet the beggar head of the Chengmen district. He is a tall man wearing an old silk waistcoat, holding a smooth wooden staff in his hand. Liu San whispers to you that this staff is the beggar head's symbol of power, much like an official seal. For a beggar, seeing the staff is the same as seeing the leader, and you must obey. It also represents the management rights tacitly granted to him by the local gentry and the government. As the supreme administrator of the beggars in this area, he is the true boss of the beggar circle, with the power to divide territories, set rules, collect dues, and punish those who violate the code. The beggar head sits under a dilapidated shack with a majestic gaze, surrounded by several sturdy beggars who act as his assistants, specializing in collecting money and driving away unorganized drifters. Liu San pulls you forward and bows respectfully, handing over all the copper coins you managed to beg over the past 2 days. Chief, this is a new arrival from the Huai region who doesn't know our ways yet. I have brought him here for the fruit offering ceremony. This is the gang's rule. A new drifter must surrender everything they have recently begged as a gesture of submission. I ask you to take him in. From now on, he will beg with me in Changmen, and we will pay our dues on time and never trespass on other turfs. You are so nervous your whole body trembles, and you keep your head bowed low, terrified that the leader might reject you. The beggar head glances at you and Liu San takes the money and tosses it to an assistant and speaks in a flat tone. Since he is with you, I will allow him to stay. Remember, the rules cannot be broken. If you are caught begging out of bounds, you will be beaten at best or driven out of Suzhou at worst. Thank you, Chief. Liu San quickly pulls you down to kowtow. Your forehead touches the freezing ground, but your heart is filled with relief and a sense of security. From this moment on, you are no longer an unorganized drifter. You have a territory, a support system, and a partner. From that day on, Liu San begins teaching you the rules and techniques of begging. He explains that there are 3 types: gentle begging, forceful begging, and artistic begging. Forceful begging is the most forbidden. Gentle begging is the most common, and artistic begging is the most dignified and profitable. Different situations require different approaches. He teaches you gentle begging, which is the most mild and fundamental method. It relies on kneeling, pleading, offering blessings, and showing your misery to evoke pity. This was the only way you knew at first. He teaches you how to address shop owners, saying things like, "May the master strike it rich, please spare a little, and may your business flourish and bring in gold every day." Your tone must be respectful and sincere, especially during shop openings or festivals when owners are more likely to give for good luck. He also shows you how to display your misery by huddling on the street in the dead of winter to show your purple, frozen limbs and scars. However, he warns you repeatedly never to resort to self-mutilation. That is considered forceful begging, which angers passers-by, brings punishment from the beggar head, and gets the entire district in trouble. He also teaches you artistic begging, which involves using a talent to beg. This is more effective and dignified than simple pleading, and it is how fallen opera singers or disabled craftsmen make their living. He teaches you how to keep time and sing folk tunes like Lotus Fall and the Fengyang flower drum. Lotus Fall is a common beggar's melody with lyrics that usually focus on moral lessons or blessings. The Fengyang flower drum is the traditional begging method for refugees from your own region. And as a native of northern Huai, you sing it with genuine emotion. Talk of Fengyang, sing of Fengyang. Fengyang was once a beautiful place, but ever since the Zhou Emperor arrived, 9 years out of 10 have been a wasteland. Liu San sings with a raspy, mournful voice. While teaching you to keep the beat, his rough fingers occasionally tap the back of your hand to correct your rhythm before quietly pulling away. You follow his lead clumsily until you can finally match his tune. Finally, he shares the survival timetable, a set of life-saving tips gathered by beggars through years of hardship. In the spring, stay near temples where there are many pilgrims and kind hearts. In the summer, watch the tea houses and wine shops where people come to cool off and are more generous. In the autumn, focus on the examination halls, as the students traveling for the exams are compassionate and fear that being unkind to a beggar will bring them bad luck for their tests. In the winter, rely on the soup kitchens. These are relief points set up by the government during disasters to provide free porridge. They are a lifeline in the winter, and the government's way of pacifying refugees to maintain order. You learn with extraordinary dedication. Every day, you practice your blessings and sing your folk tunes against the cold walls until your voice grows hoarse. You crouch on the street corners, watching Liu San as he begs, studying the way he handles shop owners with ease and how he sings his melodies with such practiced grace. You know deep down that these skills are your only capital for survival. They are your hope for a life where you are no longer bullied or left with an empty stomach. Liu San treats you like a younger brother. He shares half of the better food he collects with you. In the winter, he gives you his only scrap of tattered cotton padding, so you won't have to shiver in the cold. Whenever you offend other beggars and face their bullying, he always steps forward to protect you, even if it means taking the blows himself. There was one bitter winter when a heavy snow fell and you were burning up with a fever, lacking even the strength to stand. Liu San gave up begging for the day to stay by your side. He used his rough hands to feel your forehead and wipe your face. He even braved the blizzard to wait in line at the soup kitchen, bringing back a bowl of warm, thin porridge and feeding it to you drop by drop. Hang in there, he said, his eyes filled with worry. Winter will pass, spring will come, and we will both live to see it. Lying on the freezing ground and looking into his worried eyes, you feel the warmth from his palm and the heat of the porridge. The coldness and despair in your heart vanish instantly. You remember how your parents took care of you just like this before they passed, and suddenly you realize that Liu San is your only kin and your only connection to this world. You learn to take care of Liu San in return. Every time it rains, the old injury on his hand flares up, causing his whole body to tremble with pain until he can't even hold his broken bowl. During these times, you take over his duties. You beg in his place, pay the dues to the gang, sing the songs, and guard the territory. You search the roadsides for herbs to boil into a medicinal wash for his hand. Once, while applying the medicine, your fingers brushed against the scar on his wrist. He flinched instinctively, and you immediately softened your touch, letting your fingertips linger on the back of his hand for a moment before pulling away. Even if you aren't sure if the medicine works, you desperately want to ease his pain. You save the thickest porridge for him and eat the hard, dry bread yourself, knowing that with his crippled hand and lame leg, begging is far harder for him than it is for you. Liu San also teaches you the secret slang of the beggar world and the art of dealing with all kinds of people. He teaches you how to avoid government arrests and how to stay alive during years of famine. He tells you that while there is infighting and scheming among beggars, there is more mutual aid. People at the bottom of society must huddle together to survive. When a companion is sick or injured, everyone takes turns caring for them. If one is bullied, the others step in to help. This is the unwritten law of the beggar gangs, and the only warmth available to those at the lowest level. He also warns you about the Yangji Institute, the government shelter for beggars. Although you can get coarse rice there, the spots are few and overcrowded. The officials there embezzle the grain, replacing the relief rice with husks and sand. The rules inside are as harsh as a prison, and a single mistake can lead to a beating. Many beggars would rather starve on the streets than enter such a place to be humiliated. The porridge at the government soup kitchens may be so thin that you can see your own reflection in it, but it is still the ultimate lifeline in winter. Countless beggars wait in the snow for a taste. Being one step late can mean the difference between life and death. As the seasons turn and the years go by, you follow Liu San through the streets of Suzhou. You gradually master the flower drum and the lotus fall songs. You learn how to speak the right blessings and how to display your misery to win sympathy. You learn how to hold your ground within the strictly regulated hierarchy of the beggar gang. You are no longer that ignorant, helpless drifter who only knew how to kneel and plead. You have become steady and wise, learning the art of endurance and how to fight for your life in the mire of suffering. You and Liu San become the perfect partners, relying entirely on one another. You set up your regular spot on the shopping street of Changmen. You are young, so you handle the task of guarding the territory, acting out the misery and holding the props. Liu San has the talent, so he takes the lead in singing the lotus fall and the flower drum to attract a crowd and increase your income. Your coordination is seamless. Though the food and money you collect each day aren't much, it is enough to fill your bellies and pay your dues on time. You meet kind passers-by who give you hot porridge, bread, and a few coins, telling you to stay strong and keep living. You also encounter cold strangers who avoid you with disgust, shouting at you and treating you like filth. You even deal with bitter shopkeepers who curse at you and smash your broken bowls to drive you away. Every time you are treated with such coldness or driven away with insults, your heart fills with grievance and sorrow. You can't help but wonder, why is it so hard just to stay alive? Why is it that we are all human, yet they dress in fine silk and eat their fill while we must beg just to exist? Why does this so-called prosperous age have no room for people like us? Whenever this happens, Liu San always pats your shoulder. His voice is calm but carries a quiet strength. Don't be sad and don't complain. We are beggars, the very bottom of the social classes. In the hierarchy of the Qing Dynasty, we are lower than actors and servants. Being hated and looked down upon is just the way things are. The world sees us as lowly and filthy, but they forget that we only threw away our dignity because we were pushed to a dead end. But we cannot give up. As long as we stay alive, there is hope to see a different kind of day. Looking at the determination in his eyes, the bitterness in your heart is slow. You know that living is the most important thing. No matter how humble or difficult life is, no matter how much people look down on you, you must fight with everything you have to survive. You and Liu San are both struggling in the darkness, but beneath your tattered clothes, you hide the courage to live and a tiny glimmer of hope for the future. One day, a group of drifters from out of town bursts into the Changmen shopping street. They don't understand the rules of the local beggar gang or the boundaries of the territory. They beg recklessly and even resort to forceful begging by blocking the entrances to shops and mutilating themselves to extort money. They won't leave unless they are paid. The shopkeepers are full of complaints, and the rules of the beggar gang are being shattered. Liu San tells you that these drifters are mostly fleeing famine. They haven't joined any gang, so they don't know the rules and don't care about the consequences. They are the people local beggars fear and loathe the most. When the beggar head hears of this, he is furious. He sends word to Lao San to drive these drifters away immediately, or else Lao San will be punished, and both of you will be kicked out of Changmen. Liu San is anxious. He knows these drifters are fierce and reckless, but the beggar head's order is the law. It cannot be broken. Ahi, I am going to go talk sense into them and draw the line, he says, pulling you aside with a heavy look in his eyes. You are young and agile. Help me guard our spot. If they refuse to leave, we have to stand our ground and stall for time until the beggar head's men arrive. You must be careful, don't get hurt. You nod firmly and clench your fists. This is a crisis you and Liu San must face together. You cannot back down. You have to protect him, guard your territory, and hold on to your hope for survival. Liu San approaches the drifters. He respectfully explains the gang's rules and the territorial boundaries, asking them to leave Changmen. But the drifters don't listen at all. Instead, they mock and insult Liu San, eventually beginning to shove him around. Where did this old man come from? Thinking he can tell us what to do. A sturdy drifter shoves Liu San hard, his voice dripping with malice. We beg wherever we want. Rules, territories. That's all garbage. Today, we are begging right here. Liu San stumbles back several steps. The sudden movement flares up his old hand injury, leaving him trembling with pain, his face turning pale. Seeing Liu San being bullied, a fire ignites within you. You immediately rush forward to stand in front of him, staring down the drifter with fierce eyes. You can't bully him. This is our territory. You have to leave now. Oh, look at this little brat trying to mind everyone's business. The sturdy drifter sneers, reaching out to shove you. You were ready for him. You sidestep the blow and put every ounce of your strength into a punch to his chest. You are young and not very strong, but you have no choice. You only want to protect Liu San and save what little you have. The fight breaks out instantly. You and Liu San, along with a few other local beggars, become locked in a brawl with the drifters. You are young and flexible, fighting with everything you've got. Liu San, despite his crippled hand and lame leg, is experienced and knows how to dodge and strike back. You protect each other. Even as bruises bloom on your skin and blood trickles from the corner of your mouth, you never retreat. Only one thought fills your mind: we cannot lose. You remember how Liu San took care of you, the days you spent begging together, and the time you spent relying on each other. That memory fills you with strength. Finally, thanks to your persistence and the arrival of the beggar head's men, the drifters are driven away. Peace returns to the shopping street of Changmen, and the shopkeepers let out a sigh of relief. You and Liu San sit at the corner of the alley, covered in bruises and cuts. Yet, you look at each other and smile. Your shoulders brush against one another naturally, carrying the chill of the winter air but radiating a deep inner warmth. Neither of you moves away. All the pain and exhaustion seem to vanish, replaced by a profound sense of relief and security. You have protected your territory, your hope for survival, and most importantly, you have protected each other. The beggar head is highly satisfied with the outcome and promotes Liu San to the position of a small leader. Liu San explains to you that the beggar gang is a world of rigid social strata. At the bottom are the ordinary beggars who beg daily and pay their dues on time. In the middle are the small leaders. Like the position he now holds, who manage a small territory, collect dues, and mediate disputes. They no longer have to beg personally and can keep a small portion of the collected dues as a salary. At the top is the beggar head and his assistants, who control the entire district and even deal with local gentry and government officials. They are the true power holders. Since becoming a small leader, Liu San's life has stabilized, and he no longer has to endure the brutal elements every day. Liu San does not forget you. He makes you his assistant, working by his side to manage the territory, collect dues, and settle conflicts. You no longer need to kneel on the streets every day. You are no longer subjected to the cold stares of passers-by or the harassment of shopkeepers. Life is gradually becoming steady. Although it is still humble and difficult, it is a world away from the misery of the past. During the Lunar New Year, Suzhou is adorned with lanterns and streamers, and every household is filled with festive joy. You and Liu San, dressed in relatively clean clothes, collect the holiday dues at Changmen. Occasionally, you offer a few words of blessing to the shop owners, who often reward you with food or money as a New Year's gift. After finishing your rounds, you head to the soup kitchen for 2 bowls of warm porridge and a piece of flatbread. Crouched in your usual alley corner, you share the meal. Snowflakes drift onto your clothes and hair, yet you don't feel the cold at all. Your arms brush against each other as you eat, but neither of you minds. You chew in silence, your fingertips occasionally touching the rim of the bowl before gently moving away. You look at Liu San beside you, seeing the smile on his face and the vanished weariness in his eyes, and your heart overflows with peace. You think back to the despair of first arriving in Suzhou, the way you and Liu San first met through a misunderstanding, and the time you spent guarding each other through hardship. You realize that both you and Liu San were souls cast aside by this so-called prosperous age, struggling to survive in tattered rags. You have no fine clothes, no abundance of food, and no dignified status. You are merely the lowliest of beggars, yet in this mire of suffering, you found each other. You found someone to lean on and the courage to hope for a future. As spring arrives after the new year, Suzhou pulses with new life as willows sprout and flowers bloom. Liu San's hand injury has improved, no longer flaring up with agonizing pain during the rains. Color has returned to your own face, and the gaunt, desperate look of starvation has finally faded. Yet, you are also aware that this new life brings its own set of unknowns. Since Liu San became a small leader, he has been drawn into the complex infighting of the Beggar Gang. Sometimes there are conflicts with other beggars over dues, and other times he is resented or bullied while trying to mediate disputes. As his assistant, you are pulled into this web as well. You begin to realize that the Beggar Gang is not just about rules and mutual aid. It is also a place of schemes, betrayals, and difficult choices where one is often forced into things against their will. Standing at the mouth of the alley, you watch the bustling traffic of Suzhou and the well-dressed crowds. You look at Liu San, still working hard to survive by your side, and a trace of confusion ripples through your heart. You don't know what the future holds, whether you can always rely on each other to survive, or if you will ever truly find a place to call your own in this city. Liu San walks up to you and pats your shoulder. His hand lingers there for a heartbeat longer than usual. Before falling away, his eyes hold a mix of determination and uncertainty. Ah, spring is here. Everything will get better, won't it? You turn to him and nod firmly, your voice steady. Yes, Uncle Liu, spring is here, and everything will be fine. No matter what difficulties come our way, I will always follow you. I'll stay by your side. We will survive this together and wait for better days. Deep down, however, the confusion remains. You realize those words were meant as much for yourself as they were for him. You don't know when those better days will come or what they will look like. You only know that you and Liu San will remain companions, struggling through the mud of existence and guarding the small, flickering flame of warmth and hope that belongs to those at the bottom. The road ahead is long and filled with uncertainty. Eventually, your journey together will face a new crossroads. Will you continue to follow Liu San, navigating the dangerous politics of the Beggar Gang to keep your stability? Will you take Liu San and leave Changmin and the gang behind, seeking a new life of begging in an unknown place? Or will you seize a chance to live by a trade, as Liu San once did, shedding your identity as a beggar to live with true dignity? A light spring breeze blows, carrying the scent of uncertainty. You look at Liu San and at this city of Suzhou, a place that feels both strange and familiar. Slowly, your confusion is replaced by a quiet resolve. No matter how hard the future becomes or what choices you must make, you will face them with Liu San. Beneath the tattered rags, you will protect each other and hold on to hope, because you know that in the shadows of this great prosperity, you are the only light each other has.